War Pugs, it's time for some Majorkill. Now, this asks the question, who is the better Warlord of Chaos? And I see two names. I see Archaon, and I see the guy that will be outdone by literally anyone else in the setting. That's all I've got to say about that. It's going to be Archaon, because flat out, you cannot suck more than Abaddon. Can we just have Hansu, like... They need to stop with Abaddon because he spent too long being absolutely useless. He spent way too long being absolutely pathetic. And I don't care how much you retcon somebody at that point. And I don't care how much, it was genius for him to get destroyed by the Lamenters because he found this keychain that's going to help him out in the future. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. Let's see what Majorkill has to say about it. But, come on, man. Come on. Abaddon, he's the most disappointing thing since Hermann von Straub. Here we go.
G'day guys and gal. There are a lot of parallels between Warhammer Fantasy / Age of Sigmar and Warhammer 40k. Many gods,
in particular the Sigmarines,
and demons share the same name, powers, and personality, whilst the factions often mirror each other in various ways, especially Chaos. Both settings have a big bad Chaos Warlord who actually despises Chaos and is supposed to look tough and rebellious despite doing exactly what Chaos wants them to do.
True.
For Fantasy, it's Archaon the Ever-Chosen, Lord of the End Times, and for 40k, it's Abaddon the Despoiler. But which Warmaster or Ever-Chosen of Chaos is better?
Archaon.
Who is a more compelling character? Who is more powerful? Who has achieved more for Chaos? It's actually a pretty complicated question, especially since Archaon is very different in Fantasy than compared with Age of Sigmar. Before we get started, we fucking did it! 500,000 subscribers, sooner than expected, you sexy men and women. It's been a wild ride, but just know that I'll never stop appreciating the support from you guys, from the people that watch me with an ad blocker, all the way to the legends that buy the minis, join the Patreon, or pick up the merch. All of you are fucking awesome, and I owe this all to you. What's next? Well, we are doing a drunk stream this Saturday, 11:30 PM Melbourne time, which is 2:30 PM London time, and 9:30 AM New York time. Literally every time zone should be awake, and it's a fucking Saturday, so you guys better get down and watch me get absolutely shit-faced as I play Bolt Gun.
Yay!
My girlfriend will also join us, so you guys can see that she's not just an advanced AI. I've also gotten the tattoo. It's so sick, I love it, and I'm not showing it off yet. The video of me getting it, showing it off, and answering some questions, as well as launching the 500k merch, fuck me, this merch shop is so good, will be next week. It turns out we hit 500k so quick that all the product hasn't actually arrived in the warehouse yet. Nice problem to have. I've got a few more surprises on the horizon.
That is always a good problem to have. That is always... When I was closing out on 10,000, I was writing the Yarg script because I wanted, the day I hit 10,000, I wanted to drop the Yarg video. But the Yarg video kept getting longer and longer and longer. And eventually it got to the point where I was at 11,500 subscribers before I dropped the third episode. Which, I'm going to have to figure something else out for 20,000. I don't know what I'm going to do about that. I just don't know.
But in the meantime, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Now on to 1 million. Today we'll compare and contrast Archaon and Abaddon to determine who is the greater Warlord of Chaos. We'll be mostly focusing on Warhammer Fantasy Archaon, but I will be sure to make note of his Age of Sigmar-ness as well. Let's get into it.
Let's go.
Before we get into whose cock and balls are bigger, I'll give a quick rundown of both. Archaon was a Sigmarite priest whose father was a possessed Norscan that raped his Nordland mother, thus fulfilling the prophecy of the Lord of the End Times being a mix of both northern and southern blood. When he discovered the prophecy, he was a bit upset and prayed to Sigmar for guidance. However, Sigmar was trapped within the vortex in Ulthuan and wasn't taking calls right now, hence he was met with silence. Thus, the extremely entitled Archaon was like, fine, fuck you, I'm gonna blow up the world then. Fair enough. He still claimed to hate the Chaos Gods, especially since what they did to his mother, and thought that if he did their bidding, he could destroy the world instead of letting them corrupt it, thus denying them their goal? It's a bit confusing and kind of stupid, but that's the gist of it.
In short, he's just a fucking asshole. Pretty much.
He then went on many quests over the centuries to recover various Chaos artifacts and weapons, securing his legitimacy as the next Everchosen, gaining a shitload of XP and becoming overpowered. During this time, he actually did die a few times and was brought back to life by Be'lakor for a laugh, so at least he wasn't a Mary Sue and he had to bust his balls to become a beast. Archaon would succeed, leading Chaos during the end times and blowing up the world. He would then return in an even more powerful form for Age of Sigmar to once again lead Chaos, whilst still being angsty and pretending he was somehow defying the ruinous powers he served. Abaddon was pretty powerful from the start. As soon as he ascended to the Legio Astartes, he was massive and willful. He was much more of a Mary Sue and was more or less the first captain of the Lunar Wolves from the get-go, one of the most powerful legions. Whilst he did join the Horus Heresy and did fight for Chaos, he found those that succumbed to its influence to be pathetic. When he saw what Horus had become, a literal meat suit for the gods, he was disgusted, renouncing his legion and literally destroying its heritage, renaming them the Black Legion and expunging Horus from their legacy. He too went on a number of quests over the centuries, obtaining a widely overpowered sword, gaining a huge army and fleet, before then launching various Black Crusades against the Imperium. Some were successful, some were not so much. He kicked his share of ass, but got his ass kicked many times in return.
Badly kicked.
Although he has been propped up as the big bad, it's hard to take him seriously when he loses a melee fight to an Eldar wizard and has to be plot armored teleported to safety. He wants to be a Megatron, but he's just a fucking Starscream.
True.
Especially when Demon Primarchs are still a thing.
Yes.
In recent times, he achieved Chaos's greatest victory ever, destroying Cadia and creating the Great Rift. So
by throwing a temper tantrum. Basically. Anybody that tells me he actually planned on that, I don't care how much it's written, that he planned on throwing the Blackstone Fortress. You don't commit a huge portion of your army to destroy a place, to take over a planet that you're just going to destroy anyway. It's the Blackstone temper tantrum.
Credit where credit is due. He is easily one of the most powerful Space Marines in the setting. However, a lot of that does come from his sword Draknian. Like Archaon, Abaddon likes to think that Chaos is his bitch, and he is simply using them as a means to an end. The Chaos gods find this entertaining and thus indulge his fantasy. However, since he is the War Master of Chaos, uses Chaos power, and is literally covered in Chaos iconography, it's fair to say that he is Chaos's bitch, not the other way round.
True.
I kind of see what GW tried to do with the whole Master of Chaos vibe they wanted, but it really just doesn't land. If the gods wanted, both Archaon and Abaddon would turn into a Chaos spawn at a moment's notice.
True.
Age of Sigmar Archaon does get kind of closer to the whole renegade Everchosen that's too valuable to destroy but also getting problematic vibe, but he's still Chaos's bitch. So now we have their vibe, let's compare them. First up, who was the greater warrior? Archaon during the end times was able to pretty much kill every hero he went up against, including the god-powered ones. He only finally met his match against Grimgor Ironhide and Sigmar himself. He killed Grimgor and was losing to Sigmar, until shit went south and Sigmar got kicked in the balls by the psychic backlash of the world blowing up. Just before their duel, Sigmar had caved in the skull of Kabunda, the greatest demon of chaos, without too much drama. Now you could argue this puts Sigmar on Sanguinius's level, with Archaon almost matching, but it's common knowledge that Warhammer Fantasy demons are a lot weaker than 40k demons. After all, if a normal human with a sword can kill a bloodletter in fantasy, then why the fuck do Space Marines have issues with them? Think about it like this. The demons from 40k are empowered by the worship of countless sextillions of cultists, whilst also feeding on the emotions of a metric fuckton of people spread over a million worlds. Fantasy demons are empowered by one world with not a particularly large population. So in a fight, Abaddon would crush Archaon without too much drama. Abaddon hits like a tank and fights as fast as a blur. It's a legitimate non-contest. Age of Sigmar Archaon may be a different story. He was able to...
This is decidedly true because at the end of the day, Ezekiel Abaddon is a Space Marine. But I'm going to say Archaon would whoop his ass just because screw Abaddon.
Kill Nagash, the god of death, and is pretty on par with Sigmar. There was an overall power buff across the board for Age of Sigmar. However, there are still mortals charging into battle with swords against demons. I would still give it to Abaddon, but it would probably look more like a Dark Souls boss fight, as Abaddon would have to first kill Archaon's big-ass Chimera dragon demon thingo before then reaching Archaon. What about accomplishments? After all, being a good leader isn't about who can smack who harder. On paper, Abaddon is a clear winner, since he has conquered conquered and destroyed thousands of worlds versus Archaon's one world. But then when you bring them to comparable scale, Archaon perma-killing tabletop characters and then ending an entire setting is a lot more dramatic than Abaddon inconveniencing the Imperium and cutting the galaxy in half.
Right.
Archaon was pretty straight up, employing solid strategies and leading from the front. When he realized that he needed more girth and less brains to beat the forces of order, he killed Kairos Fateweaver and used his death to summon Kabunda. His gear is a big part of him, but he doesn't rely on it as hard as Abaddon does. Many of Abaddon's gambits only succeeded because of his gear. Archaon, on the
plot armor.
other hand, only uses his gear in duels. His Eye of Sirian, that gives him future sight, is more so used to predict enemy attacks rather than play 5D chess. He's a simple warrior, straightforward but not stupid. So scaling up the two settings together, Archaon was the more impactful and successful Chaos Warlord. It also helps that he is legitimately Chaos's top dog. He has killed or beaten many other challengers for the title of Everchosen. For example, Be'lakor wanted the mantle, but Archaon overcame him.
And one thing to remember is, Archaon was considered a southerner by the Norscan. And that is, like, so becoming a chosen of chaos at the very least is not easy for even those people. It's damn near impossible for a southerner.
Archaon has also killed many greater demons and demon princes to finish all of his Chaos quests. This level of success has also carried over to Age of Sigmar, leading Chaos to many victories and even outplaying Sigmar and causing the warrior god to temporarily lose Galmaraz, his signature warhammer. He very nearly conquered the entirety of Age of Sigmar in the opening wars. Whilst Abaddon has beaten many challenges, he is actually pretty far down Chaos's pecking order in terms of power.
True.
Khan, Azek, Lorgar, Angron, Fulgrim, Perturabo, Mortarion, and Magnus could all kill Abaddon in a duel and arguably command larger forces. His successes are usually temporary, as the fall of Cadia triggered Gilliman's resurrection and the Arcs of Omen triggered the Lion's return. Two things that Chaos hasn't been stoked about. Fuck, I mean the opening of the Great Rift has actually empowered the Emperor, stirring him from his slumber, and has given the Imperium a genuine opportunity to achieve a total victory over Chaos. The reason Abaddon is War Master and not the other Chaos champions I mentioned is that because A, the Chaos Gods need someone that isn't a demon and is weak enough to control, and B, a lot of those champions find the role to be unsavory or beneath them. I'm not saying Abaddon is useless, but he's a Starscream to Archaon's Megatron in this situation.
It's extremely true. The sheer fact of the matter is, Abaddon is out. Abaddon's the leader because he's supposed to be, not because he is. That's pretty much all there is to say about that. They have tried for so long to make him worthwhile, it's just pathetic at this point.
As a last comparison, since I've mentioned it a few times, how does their Wargear compare? The concept of their swords is similar. Archaon has the Slayer of Kings, a sword that has a demon in it that literally thirsts for the blood of kings. If it doesn't get sated, it tries to drink Archaon's blood. It fails every time. Abaddon also has a demon sword, this one being Draknian, the ender of empires and one of the only demons that can actually threaten the Emperor's life and cannot be destroyed. It is very overpowered, able to cut through other relic or legendary weapons like a 9,000 degree knife through butter. It can also unleash torrents of power to blow shit up. In their other hands, Abaddon wields the Talon of Horus, a Primarch weapon that is both a melee lightning claw as well as a combi bolter. This contrasts with Archaon, who uses a shield. While I'm sure the shield is powerful and whatnot, it doesn't seem to be one of his artifacts of chaos, so there isn't much to say about it.
True.
Abaddon's armor could be considered to be a dozen items in one, but it's just referred to as the Armor of Abaddon, a custom-made Terminator suit covered in runes, talismans, and other stuff to protect him. His armor is just as much of a psychic magic shield as it is iron and brass. Archaon, on the other hand, has the Armor of Morkar, which follows a similar vibe to Abaddon. However, he also gets the Eye of Sirian, an artifact that lets him see the future, the Crown of Domination, the Mark of Chaos Ascendant, and his three-headed demon mount Drogar. So Archaon is definitely more blinged out. So how would a fight between the two go? Let's say Age of Sigmar Archaon against Abaddon. The fight would be pretty tough for Abaddon. Drogar is like three greater demons in one. He would have to wear it down with his combi bolter, then use his speed and skill with Draknian to cut off each head as it lunged for him. I'm sure he would get smacked around a bit, but it would eventually kill Drogar before then fighting Archaon. Archaon. In Age of Sigmar, people hit very hard, but not necessarily that quickly. Archaon strikes would be powerful, but Abaddon would be faster with the superior sword. It would be a vicious fight, but not a long one, as Abaddon would eventually win, either by impaling Archaon on his talon or just beating him to a pulp.
Right.
In saying that though, I also wouldn't be shocked if when Abaddon was fighting with Draugr, Archaon was able to find an opening and leap forward, impaling Abaddon with the Slayer of Kings. Against fantasy,
It wouldn't be the first time that GW has saved Abaddon, though, in the face of getting impaled. I mean, literally, it's happened to him so many times now, it's just pointless to even mention it.
Archaon, it's a no contest. But in Age of Sigmar, where gods walk the battlefield, it could be a very different story. So which Warlord of Chaos is more successful and an overall better character? Archaon. He is Chaos's top dog.
Right.
They don't have anyone better, and he can take on the best Order has to offer. Compare that to Abaddon, who would get dumpstered by the Lion and many Chaos champions, and it becomes a bit embarrassing. Archaon also legitimately wiped out Warhammer Fantasy. Abaddon will never wipe out Warhammer 40k. As a character, Archaon also has a better arc, starting off with some pretty grim origins, going through numerous challenges and quests to eventually become the Everchosen, and beginning his conquest, whereas Abaddon was just kind of big and strong from the get-go. He had his challenges, but they weren't that epic, and they relied more so on his gear or subordinates rather than his own girth.
Right.
Archaon had to bust his balls to get all of his fancy war gear. Abaddon was either given all of his or looted it from his Primarch's corpse. 40k is more lore-rich than Age of Sigmar, but that doesn't mean it's better in every way. If you enjoyed the video and you want to support the channel, then pick up the Major Mini. We just released the Honorable Guardians for you Ultra boys and girl out there. Hit the subscribe button and hit the real subscribe button for more chaotic content. Join the Discord for more memes, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.
I had a feeling he was going to agree with me on that one. The sheer fact of the matter is, so Abaddon has been there for a very long time, and you can't just stick, if you're going to keep a storyline kind of stagnant, when someone shows up in the lore, it has to be a whole thing. It has to be an entire, oh god, it's him kind of deal. Not where it's like, if you read the Night Lord series, it's just clear that while Abaddon might be respected by some, he's not really that respected by everyone. Oh my god, there's a fly in my room and I'm going to kill it. It's clear that he's not respected by everyone. Some people even think he's just an utter clown. Which he really, at the end of the day, is. He doesn't inspire leadership that well. He's just very, very powerful, and he's coked up by the Chaos Gods. And that's the only reason he's as strong as he is. And he is surrounded by some pretty powerful yes men that are going to kiss his ass. Aside from that, Abaddon really isn't that anywhere near that great. I do think that the Horus Heresy has tried to redeem him so far. I'm waiting for the last book of the Siege of Terra to really put my mind at rest about him. But until then, guys, all of Majorkill's links are going to be in the description down below, right next to my own. Go check him out. And check out my links too for everything. I can't wait. 15,000 is less than like 1,200 away. 15,000. That's crazy to me. I don't know. The lore channel is starting to kind of gain some traction, which I'm really, really glad to see. I have nearly finished the script for the second part of the Commissar's Guide to 40k. I am working on a new 5-ish minute lore on, well, you'll find out. I'm going to have a special guest helping me out with that. And, yeah. A lot of stuff going on. Time is never on my side. Guys, you want to know how to deal with Abaddon? Just send the Lamenters.